Good morning and happy Tuesday, 10 at 10. I am your host, Richard Charpentier, and every Tuesday we go through questions that you send to Bakerpedia. So let's get started. So thank you very much for listening. But the first question is regarding natural colors. So somebody asked that they made some natural color sugar, gold, green, and purple by juicing fruits and vegetable and mixing the juices with some sugar. They're asking if I basically dehydrate these and remove the moisture, what will happen to the colors? So question, in order to make natural coloring, which is fantastic, one of the issue that people face, and that's why it's, if you go buy natural color on the market versus artificial colors, they're often much more expensive. So one thing with the challenge with natural colors is the main challenge is to create natural color that holds up when exposed to particular rigors of the manufacturing process. The issue you have to face is the light exposure, heat sensitivity, and interaction with other ingredients are the key challenges that you will face by building natural colors, because the color will not remain when they're exposed to the light. And if what's the right moisture level in order to dehydrate it, it's going to take a lot of R&D work and a lot of dedication to the process in order to ensure you can do it. And that's something, again, it goes back to product development, do the work and ensure that you get the same color day in and day out. And especially using fruit extract is the concentration. How much do you have to add in order to get, let's say, a green? Do you have to add 1, 2, 3%? Because the more color you will have to put. Now, remember, when you add other ingredients, it's also going to change the color. Turning, if you have a lot of eggs in your formulation, is going to change the color to sort of a different tone and cannot be attractive. And if you have a shelf life on your product, then that's another thing that I would basically spend time. But great question. So now moving on to the next question. Somebody said we have tried several ways to make egg-free cakes, but not able to get the volume, a crumb structure. Could you please help with solutions for this? So what you're telling me is that, making an egg-free cake and getting the right volume. Since, I don't know your formula and I only know that you're making egg-free cakes, it's how much sugar do you use in your cake? What type of flour do you use, which is very important. Do you use a soft wheat? Do you use a chlorinated flour, etc.? And what do you use gums at all? And most importantly, do you use emulsifiers? And what leavening system do you have? And when I say leavening system, I'm talking about the baking powder system that you're using in order to leaven your cake. And all of those factors, as I listed, before, emulsifiers, formulation, sugar level, hydrocolloids, gums, and how you process as well, and your leavening system will give you that. Plus, how do you bake? What temperature do you bake? So, my approach has always been, look at all the details and see what would work for you. And again, not knowing what percent of what formula you're using, it's very difficult for me to indicate and give you any suggestion at this point, for how to resolve it. But good luck on the continuation. Gluten-free baking. What is the best substitute other than xanthan gum for vital wheat gluten in gluten-free baking? So, gluten-free baking, if you want to build structure in this question, it's, when you make regular gluten, as you're mentioning gluten, you're building a gluten network. So basically the gluten is going to stand and gluten-free. And now in regular gluten, now in gluten-free baking is you're relying on starches to allow to build a structure. So the starch matrix is what's doing it. So as you get more volume, it's about finding the proper, in my personal experience, is finding the right starches and the combination of right starches and colloids to build that structure. That's why in gluten-free baking, a lot of people who are successful usually sell, the same product and have the same formula because they found the right combination of starches. Remember, in regular gluten baking, you do have access to analytical data that will give you, the absorption, the mixograph, the farinograph. And there's a great, if you missed it, there was a great talk on gluten-free recently on Bakerpedia, and I'm sure you can go back online and look it up to give you all the information necessary. Because the key is understand the ingredients you're using and for the process you're using in order to get the volume. And because starches, remember, as you put yeast inside, it's not the same system. And often a lot of gluten-free bakers are struggling, with getting the volume. So, and looking for the proper, ingredients and the proper support. I would recommend again to go to Bakerpedia to get information, as much information as you can get. And there's a great resources you can get there on gluten-free baking. But thank you for, sending the question. Now for our last question, somebody is asking, I'm trying to make low calories brownies using maltitol, but they need more volume while keeping them fudgy and as low calorie. What do you think I can add? So maltitol is a sugar alcohol that is lower calorie and used for baking. But anytime you're using, uh, things like maltitol, sorbitol, they will give off flavor. So if you're getting more volume again in the brownie, you're looking at, using a leavening system because to chemical baking powder to leaven your product. And if you're trying to lower calories, I would go for fat because remember on nutritional, a gram of fat is equal to 9 calories, as a gram of carbohydrate is equal to 4 calories. So if you want to make a bigger dent, try to reduce the fat. There's a lot of, fat mimicker or fat substitute that you can use to a certain percent. Colloids usually are used as well as some, functional fiber can be used to change the overall calorie count while keeping the functional and textural, characteristic of a brownie. But when it comes to doing that, I always recommend, I have a background in R&D, work for large companies doing R&D, do the proper R&D, spend time in your R&D where you're trying how the ingredients will interact with others. And if you have shelf life in your products, please also validate the shelf life ambient and do not take shortcuts because shortcuts in the long term could basically be damaging your brand or damaging your product. And as consumers for bakery products, we tend to take one bite. If we like it, we'll go back. If we don't like it, we'll go to another product. So it's important to maintain a low calorie product that's going to be tasting good and have a proper shelf life. So on that note, I really appreciate your help. You have a fantastic rest of your day and I'll see you next week. Thank you guys.